We're going to move to our final talk of the afternoon by Professor Julie Tetel Andresen from Duke University. Professor Andresen has an entire career at Duke running the linguistics program, where she was also a professor of English, linguistics, and cultural anthropology. She is the author of numerous articles and books on linguistic historiography, language evolution, language and linguistic theory, including her 2014 Cambridge book, Linguistics and Evolution, a Developmental Approach, and The Languages in the World, How History, Culture, and Politics Shape Language, 2016 with Blackwell. She also happens to be, in addition to being an amazing linguist and theorist, she's also the author of some 35 romance novels, the most recent of which was published this year and is entitled Money for Nothing. And so it is a deep pleasure to introduce my dear friend, Julie Tetel Andresen, who will be speaking on the art of the romance novel. Julie?
All right. So as a romance writer, I have long been inspired by the French Impressionist painter Paul Cezanne. He created a series of paintings of a particular mountain outside Aix-en-Provence, Mont Saint-Victoire. He'd painted at 8:15 in the morning from this angle, and then 3:45 in the afternoon from another angle. For me, the love relationship, by this I mean the process of two people falling in love, is my Mont Saint-Victoire. I walk around my mountain and see the shapes and contours that reveal what the process is for these two people. Then in the next story, the different shapes and contours that make up the process for those two people. Cezanne painted the same thing over and over, but different. I write the same thing over and over, but different. Another source of inspiration for me are Renaissance depictions of the Madonna and Child. They made me realize that this image, Madonna and Child, is an institutionalized something to paint about. For me, the love relationship, the process of two people falling in love, is an institutionalized something to write about. The Renaissance painters depict the same topos over and over, but different. So do I. I furthermore note that these depictions are idealized and prized, among other things, for their beauty. I also leverage art for my plots. 30 years ago, I fell in love with the Baroque painter Artemisia Gentileschi and her Judith slaying Holofernes. Wow, I still love it. The central plot, and I made it the central plot point of my historical romance, And Heaven Too. The term romance comes from the stories of knights and ladies, sacred quests, and courtly love written in the Middle Ages. The stories were written in a Romance language and therefore called romances. They were thereby distinguished from, can you guess? The Bible, which was written in Latin. So from the beginning, the Bible, figured as sacred, made romance necessarily profane. The term romance has a long and complex history. I will dip my toe into it by invoking Northrup Frye. And yes, I know that his grand theorizing of the last 2,000 years of Western literature is, let us say, extremely old-fashioned. I was motivated to read Frye's 1957 Anatomy of Criticism just a couple of years ago because a colleague of mine in English remembered that Frye had something to say about genre, and I had always been, shall we say, exercised between the distinction between genre fiction, the profane, and I guess you'd say real literature. Frye's discussion pointed me in the direction I had always suspected, that the categories of so-called genre fiction are late 20th century marketing creations. In 1957, Frye had no understanding, as you see, of genre in such marketing terms. For Frye, there are 4 genres theorized by Aristotle. Then there are 5 modes. Romance is a mode. A mode is determined by the relationship between the audience and the characters on the stage. In a romance, the main characters are of the highest social order, but below gods. As for the characteristics of the romance, we have prodigies of strength and endurance, We have enchanted swords and talking animals, the narrative arc, they're on a quest, good and evil. It's like a chessboard. You got the good and the good and the evil, the white and the black. Frye furthermore categorizes the tone, the modes in terms of seasons. Romance is summer and has the aura of eroticism. So my top quotes from Frye, oh, I do like this one. Romance is older than the novel, a fact which has developed the historical illusion that it is something to be outgrown, a juvenile and undeveloped form. Yes, I am very familiar with this historical illusion. The great romancer should be examined in terms of the convention he chose. Yes, I would like to be judged, critiqued by the conventions I have chosen, not dismissed because I haven't chosen other ones. And the writer's choice of the romance mode should not be regarded as escape from his social attitude. So if you have a notion of a woman in a bubble bath reading a romance, I invite you to let it go. So under this notion, Moby Dick, Riders of the Purple Sage, and Star Wars would all qualify as examples of Frye's romance mode. Clearly for Moby Dick, there's a quest, contest between good and evil. Riders of the Purple Sage would now be marketed probably as the first Western. Zane Grey mobilizes the convention of, who's wearing the white hats, who's wearing the black hats. Star Wars has enchanted swords, talking robots, and qualifies for Freud's notion of family romance, given the central figure of Darth Vader. There he is looming in the background, the Dark Father. So skipping over the centuries, the modern uptake of the love story is shaped by Jane Austen, whose stories are marriage plots. What pairs are best suited to one another? Historian Stephanie Kuntz offers the insight that it was precisely around the turn of the 19th century that marriage would start to be based on love. And now the trouble starts. Romantic love is eruptive. It can disturb the social order, the class structure. It can disturb the sexual order, heteronormativity. So the contemporary romance, whatever images and notions likely came into your head when you heard me self-identify as a romance writer, bursts onto the scene with Kathleen Woodiwis's The Flame and the Flower. Feminist icon Gloria Steinem launches Ms. Magazine at the same time. These projects might seem to be at odds, but they are convergent in exploring women's lives. The romance mode is not escapist. So what happens? In 2000, Gloria Steinem marries for the first time. Now, contemporarily, by contrast, the marriage plot in romance novels is now in the background. The last 50 years of social change is amply reflected in the narratives produced by romance writers. In 1972, Woodiwis's heroine was white, size 8, and with no skills, professional or otherwise. Now, everything goes. So chunks of Frye's understanding of the mode still cling to it. Writers and readers still consistently refer to the main characters as hero and heroine, but clearly there is a break of anything of Frye's notion of these modes have anything to do with social class or the relationship of the audience to who's on the stage. And as far as my work goes, this narrative form is particularly rich and generative for my type of imagination and my artistic preferences. I love to explore all time periods and global settings, as well as the variations that this capacious form allows: reincarnation, shape-shifting, murder mystery, police procedurals, Regencies, medievals, whatever else I can think of, and that's it. Thank you.